Today we're going to look at event procedures from Chapter 2, Visual Basic Events and Controls. And an event procedure is simply a mechanism to cause some action whenever the user does something such as click on a button or add some text to a text box. And every control has a default event procedure, and we'll look at that. We'll also look at how to write an event procedure. We're going to look at IntelliSense, which is a means to help you to complete your programming code. So for example, if you've forgotten the name of a control, IntelliSense will help you with that. We're also going to look at saving a program and reloading a program. So every control has a default event procedure, and we'll see that. So for example, buttons have the click event for the default procedure. And we can select the type of event to write a procedure for. So let's go ahead and look at an example. And you'll see here that we have the form that we used in the last video notes. And we have a list box with some choices for dinner: chicken, fish, steak, soup, salad, the make your choice button, an exit button, and I've added some things here. I've added a your choice. Under the your choice label, I've added a text box. So what I want to do is when I click on, say, fish, I want fish to move over to here so that fish gets put into your choices. So I have to do that with some code. Now, how do I write the code? Well, right now what we see is just the form itself. If I click on any control in the form, I can get into the code window. So what's convenient about this approach is if we click on make a choice, we're going to be set up to write code for that button. So you can see here we're in the code window now, and we have public class form dinner, that's the name of the form, the button choose, and we have the click event. So that's one way to get into the window, the code window. The other is to go into view. If we click on view, code, and that brings us into the same code window. Now, had you not clicked on an event to begin with, a control to begin with, you would not see this button choose, click, and so on. Now if I want to choose other controls, I have a pull down here. So you can see now I see button choose, and I could choose any other button or label or list box or text box and so on. So all the controls in the form will be listed in this pull down. And the right hand side we have another pull down which lists the event procedure. So we have a click event, which is the default, which is highlighted, but there's a lot of other ones such as enter and font change, color change, so on. So if we wanted to change that, we could, but I'll leave that at click. Now, by default, Visual Basic will generate private sub, the name of the control, the event, and then a bunch of other things we don't have to be concerned about so much. To be a private and an end sub, and between that is where you want to write your code. So I want to move the text from the label or copy it over to the text box. So if I start typing txt, and notice now I've got a list of all the text boxes. So anything that starts with txt, this is how IntelliSense works. So IntelliSense is going to take and give me a list. So if I've forgotten the name of a control, I'll have that in a list. I can now click on that. Now, in order to set a property for that control, we need to put a dot here. So there's a dot notation. So we put a dot, and now you notice a whole slew of properties show up with IntelliSense. So we can go ahead and choose a property. I'm going to want text. Now the other thing about this is if we mouse over a property like text, it says gets or sets the current text in the system Windows Forms text box. So that just basically tells us what that particular property is going to do. Okay, so I'm going to click on text. So I want that to be equal to, so I want to assign some value into that text box. Dot text. So I want the text box to equal something. Well, I have another list of things, but I'm going to say I want list, and now I'll give them my list of list boxes. I only have one, list choices. And again, what do I want for a property? Well, I'll say dot, and it defaults to text, which says get or searches for the text of the currently selected item. So that's what I want, so I'm going to click on that. And that's all there is to this particular form in this code, this event procedure. So let's run this, start debugging. And now you can see if I choose chicken, make a choice, it gets copied over. Salad, make a choice, it gets copied over, and so on. Now going back to the form, I also have this exit button right here, and I'd like to write a procedure to close the form down when I'm running it. So let's go ahead back to our window here, our code window, and if I had double clicked here on exit, I would have gotten a set up for an exit event procedure, but I'm going to just go back to here, and I'm going to say, well, I want to choose button exit. So I choose button exit, and I want, again, I have a list of events, so I want to click event. Notice how it automatically sets up an event procedure for me. Now, in order to close the form, the currently running form is referred to as me. So me dot, and I have a whole slew of choices again, and I want to just close it. So it's me dot close. I'll hit enter, and that will close the form for us when it's running. Now let's go ahead and test this. So again, I'll have soup this time, and I'll click exit. Notice how the form closes. So in review, a couple things we have. We have, for every control we want an event procedure for, there's a private sub and an end sub. So in between there is where we write the procedure. We can choose the control from here, from this pull down. We can choose the event procedure, the event that we want to react to, from this pull down. And we have IntelliSense, which helps us to select properties or controls as we're writing code. So now I'd like to look at saving a program, and this is of course a very important thing to know how to do since you want to save your work, so you can maybe go back to it and do some editing later. So let's go back to our program here. I'll go back to the form itself, and what you want to do is make sure that you click on File, that you do Save All. If you save just the form dinner.vb or Save As, you can have some issues later on when you try to open this. You want to do is Save All, so make sure you select Save All, and that will save the form exactly where we had it set up. Now, of course, if I have a new project, it's the first time. Let's say I just start a new project up here, and I'm just going to call this test for saving. Under this, I'm going to be asked for the location and the name. So again, depending where you want to save this, I've got this saved on my Z drive and under Visual Studio Files. And you want to create a directory for the solution, so make sure that's checked. And click on Save, and that'll be saved for us. Now the next thing after saving, of course, is, well, how do you reload your work after it's been saved? So you might want to work on something, save it, and then come back to it later on. So what we can do, let's close everything down, and view the start page. So if you have a blank screen like I just had here, you can always click on View Start Page, and now you notice my recent project. So I could go ahead and select, I named our project we're working on Chapter 2-2, and I'm back to everything for my project as I saved it. I'll close the project again. Another option is just to select from the pull down and say Open Project, and then notice how I have Chapter 2-2, 2-3 Test for Saving. Say I want to open Test for Saving. So I click on the folder, and there'll be a solution file. If I mouse over this, it'll say Visual Studio Solution, and I'll click on that and click on OK. It sent me that sometimes. That's why I'm getting that message. In your case, you probably won't get that. And now you'll see we're back to our form, which was blank. Now, sometimes I've had issues with students opening a form up, a project up, and having a blank screen for some reason, like so, even though the project is open. So you notice up here it says Test for Saving, so we know it's open, but you can always go to the Solution Explorer over here, and you'll see the form itself, and just double click on it, and there it is. So don't worry if you end up with a blank screen like that. Just go over to the Solution Explorer, and that should get you out of trouble with that. So in conclusion, in this video note we looked at event procedures, we looked at default event procedures for various controls, we looked at how to create an event procedure. We also looked at IntelliSense, which allows us to autocomplete code. So for example, if I don't remember the name of a control, I don't remember the property. And we looked at how to save and load a program.